And how do you go through the development process? Because names mean a lot, no?
I think they mean a lot, like a lot.
Yeah.
And I think, that's a really interesting question. Like, I think names, and I think about it often, right? Like, I think there's a way, like, there's a naming convention that kind of works today where I don't think it worked yesterday. You know, like, if I think when we named Ruckify, like back then, we were trying to create a verb, and we didn't want to use the word rent. So we wanted to create a category, and we actually had to put $1 in a jar or whatever, you know, if you use the word rent. So Ruckify came that was super hard thinking. And I'm like, my daughter, all my kids are involved in the business. And I'm like, Katrina, and I had it, I was going to call it Rent It or something. Yeah, Rent It. She says, man, that is a stupid name. And I'm like, why? And she said, well, you know, you're competing with all these other words. And so, well, you come up with something better. And then she goes to the basement and comes up with Ruck. And I kind of thought, well, that's kind of neat because it leaves an impression because you change the R to an F. Like, it just kind of, you know, but well, you know, then we had Shopify was really hot. So I said, well, let's add the FI. So, well, Ruckify. So that's how we came up with Ruckify.
Interesting.
Like, it was my daughter bunking.
So Ruck and
and then just added the FI. But now, so that was then. So that's when an industry was we were creating an industry then, like, you know, like then to rent your neighbor's canoe sounded stupid. Now you can go on Kijiji and everybody's renting everything, right? But
exactly.
you know, so now that whole argument that my daughter had for like how stupid is it to call it Rent It. Now we have a company called Rent Anything Store, but now you have a more mature market. So I think it's important to be just more direct. Like, nobody has to say, what do you do?
That makes sense because at this point they've been massaged and pushed to
like
that
it's
way.
already like you can't own the category anymore. Like, it's been created. There's a ton of competitors. You can't create a verb like Kleenex or Xerox. Like, you know, like that doesn't feel as possible as it did when, you know, people would say, well, I want to Ruckify it. They weren't saying I want to rent it. They were saying I want to Ruckify it. I just thought that window had passed. So
it was an interesting name, to be very honest. I felt like it has its own brand name.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you just said, I want to Ruckify it, right?
Yeah,
so like it's its own stamp of approval.
So Rent Anything Store, totally opposite of that argument. But I think it works. So we don't have to spend any marketing telling people what we do, and, you know, so.